Picture this. It's late at night. You've just pulled off another perfect performance. A carefully planned dinner, a home that runs like clockwork. You've even patiently listened to every single one of his complaints about his day, offering the most supportive, most understanding comfort. You've done it all. The air is thick with the scent of correctness, the manufactured fragrance of a happiness that fits every social template. He walks up behind you, wraps his arms around you, and buries his head in your neck. In that familiar, tired voice, he murmurs, "Babe, what would I do without you?" And right there, in that exact moment, doesn't your body go rigid? Do you feel it? An unspeakable chill, like a cold serpent slithering up your spine. It's meant to be a lover's whisper, so why does it sound like a 5-star review from a satisfied customer? It's meant to be a tender embrace, so why do you feel like a tool that's just been used, now receiving its programmed validation? You try to speak. You want to tell him that you're tired too, that you have your own storms raging inside, that you have your own trivial nagging worries that keep you up at night, but never, ever loved for being human. Your value seems to hinge entirely on what you can provide: emotional support, domestic convenience, a safe harbor for him to dock. But your own joy and sorrow, your dreams, your fears, your dark side, all the messy, imperfect, yet authentic fragments that make you you, they are carefully ignored. They are not needed. In fact, they are not allowed. You don't want the summary of, "You're so good to have around." You crave a real equal exchange. You want him to, just for a moment, set aside his need for you and just see you, a gentle girlfriend, a devoted wife, a great mother. A trap we willingly walk into, trading our very souls for an illusion we call love. These labels are so heavy, you've almost forgotten your own name. Why is it that women of our era, armed with more independence and freedom than ever before, are still reduced to being functions in our most intimate relationships? Is it just bad luck? Did we just happen to meet men who don't know how to love? He might quickly cut you off with a solution. "You're overthinking it. Just get some sleep." Or worse, he'll patronize you under the guise of caring. "Why are you being so negative? Try to be more mature." He doesn't need a partner of flesh and blood. He needs a human charging station for his emotions and a personal life support system for his comfort. What if all his love is just a deep-seated dependency on the function you provide? And when this function shows the slightest sign of instability, his first feeling isn't empathy. It's irritation. A complete person who's also tired, also fragile, also in need of being heard. But have you seen his eyes when you try? It's not curiosity. It's not concern. It's a fleeting, almost imperceptible flash of annoyance. In that instant, you understand completely. He doesn't need your true feelings. He needs your emotional stability function. Have you ever had this feeling? The sense that you're an exquisitely designed, well-oiled machine being used with care, praised for your efficiency. You give everything you have to love, only to find you're living as a role, a function. Why does this happen? Or is there a crueler truth hiding behind it all? A truth that all of us, especially women, are terrified to admit. A truth about an ancient trap of power, of the gaze, of self-betrayal. What if he doesn't love you? What if he only loves the role you play for him? And if that's true, how do you shatter the illusion and find the real self buried beneath the function? This trap wasn't set for you by him alone. In fact, he might be just as much a victim of it as you are. This is a vast, invisible net woven from culture, history, and the collective unconscious. We all live inside this net, breathing its prescribed air, obeying its invisible gravity. And you, as a woman, were assigned a specific part from the moment you were born, a role with a pre-written script. The French philosopher Simone de Beauvoir said it best: one is not born, but rather becomes, a woman. You weren't born understanding, nurturing, or good at taking care of people. You were taught to be. He is the subject, the sun, the one who explores the world and defines its rules. You are the object, the moon, whose light is merely a reflection of his, whose purpose is to validate his existence. Think about it. From the fairy tale princesses waiting for a prince to save them, to the TV heroines who always sacrifice themselves for love. From the elders who taught you, a girl should be quiet and domestic, to the social narrative that whispers that an independent woman is really just unwanted. You see a projection of your own animus. You project all your desires for strength, wisdom, and decisiveness onto him, molding him into your destined hero. You fall in love with a perfect phantom you created yourself. An invisible user manual for being a woman was installed in your mind long ago. Simply put, every man carries an idealized female archetype in his unconscious, the anima, an embrace between two illusions. You and he are interacting through the veil of your projections, engaged in a silent mutual role-playing game. Likewise, every woman holds an idealized male archetype, the animus. It taught you that your value lies in being needed, and your completion lies in finding a man to make you whole. And you, in order to maintain this love, willingly put on the mask, the persona of devotion and understanding. You suppress all your real desires, your anger, your ambitions, your exhaustion, everything that doesn't fit the role, and shove it down into your subconscious shadow. Your functionality perfectly serves his needs as the subject. But did anyone ever tell you that when your sacrifice comes at the cost of killing a part of yourself, it isn't love? It's spiritual suicide. What a brutal conspiracy. Nietzsche warned us to beware of slave morality, the value system that glorifies weakness, submission, and self-sacrifice as virtues. In relationships, women are often encouraged to be the paragons of this morality. This ancient emotional operating system pre-installed your function to be the man's other. You trade your functionality for his dependency. This is not love. This is the most unequal transaction imaginable. It's a cultural virus, passed down through generations, making you unconsciously accept your fate as a function. You believe it's your choice, when in reality, it's a conditioned obedience born from a lack of other visible options. The psychological giant Carl Jung offered an even deeper insight with his concepts of the anima and animus. It makes you pathologically dependent on and even satisfied with your own objectification. He sees you as the embodiment of his anima, the gentle, all-accepting, maternal goddess who can soothe all his anxieties. He is mesmerized by the saintly halo you wear, the perfect, functional role you play. Do you see the scam now? When you meet a man, you often don't see the real him. And him? He does the same. And so, a seemingly perfect love affair begins. But in reality, it's a conversation between two ghosts. He needs you to play the perfect woman to fulfill his fantasy of being the hero. The deeper you suppress, the more securely you wear the mask, the more he loves you. Because your self-negation completes his narrative. You were told that sacrificing for love is noble. You think you're building a relationship, but you're actually using your soul as a spiritual currency to purchase a sense of stability. This deep root is buried in our collective DNA. And the most terrifying part of this system is that it convinces you that this is what love looks like. And so, a deeper question emerges. How is this invisible prison silently rewiring your brain, distorting your reality, and ultimately consuming your entire life? The corrosion from this system, this invisible prison, is far more insidious than you think. It's not a violent storm. It's a slow, silent sandstorm that gradually buries you alive. It poisons you in the gentlest way possible. First, it rewires your brain to get you addicted to being functional. Your brain interprets these moments as signals of safety and love, releasing a small hit of dopamine. You think it's happiness, but it's just a neurochemical reward mechanism, no different from the pleasure you get from scrolling social media or eating sugar. To get the next reward, you're willing to give more, to suppress deeper. You fall into a terrifying state of cognitive dissonance. You feel a deep sense of pain and emptiness, yet your brain tells you you're doing the right thing because you're being rewarded with love. It's a romantic version of Stockholm Syndrome, where you fall in love with the system that has taken your soul captive. Every time you play the understanding role, every time you suppress your needs to meet his, you get an immediate reward. His approval, his reliance on you, a fleeting hug, or a "what would I do without you?" And so, you get hooked. You start subconsciously chasing that hit of validation. They might bother him. They were not conducive to a stable relationship. You start to define your tastes by his preferences. You schedule your life around his calendar. You've already invested so much time, so much emotion, so much of yourself. You're afraid to stop because you're terrified to admit that everything you've done so far might have been for nothing. So you keep investing, convincing yourself that things will get better until you have nothing left of yourself to give. You judge your own thoughts through the lens of his values. Your friendships might become networking opportunities. Your job becomes nothing more than a tool to pay the bills. You lose the ability to experience things for what they are, because everything is reduced to useful or useless. You will teach her to be understanding and nurturing, coaching her on how to better serve a relationship. You take the very suffering you endured, package it as wisdom, and personally build her the exact same cage. You think you're protecting her, but you're actually perpetuating the tragedy. Your life, once a rich journey of experience, is flattened into a cold, transactional balance sheet. But only you, in the dead of night, can hear the faint, desperate whisper from the depths of your soul. Your soul becomes like a musical instrument left in a corner, its strings slowly breaking, collecting dust, no longer able to produce its own sound. Until one day, you realize you can no longer jump out. You have lost the ability to feel real emotions, the desire to live for yourself, and even the strength to resist. Remember your impractical but brilliant dreams? Next, it silently devours your sense of self. Remember the hobbies that used to set your soul on fire when you were single? Remember your unique, even sharp opinions about the world? Where did they all go? No, the real rebellion is far more subversive, and it requires far more courage. It begins with one small act that can shape the very foundations of your world. They didn't disappear, they were muted by you. Because they were inconvenient. This is the sunk cost fallacy in action. But the most lethal consequence is this. It warps your relationship with the entire world, and you risk passing it down to the next generation. When you get used to being a function in your relationship, you unconsciously start to see the rest of the world in terms of its function. And if you have a daughter, you will subconsciously hand her the same user manual. You are the frog in the slowly boiling water. The temperature rises so gradually, you don't feel danger. You feel a numb, false comfort. You look around and see a life that appears perfect. A stable partner, a cozy home, a socially approved form of happiness. It's asking you, where am I? This is the ultimate price of being a function. It's not losing a relationship. It's losing your entire life. So, where does the rebellion begin? Is the only way out to walk away, to smash it all to pieces? The real rebellion isn't slamming the door. It isn't a tear-filled screaming match. And it certainly isn't immediately searching for a better relationship. Those are all external actions. This revolution must begin inside of you. The first act of rebellion is to make a simple yet impossibly difficult decision. Allow yourself to disappoint him, but to actively and consciously let him down. To disappoint his expectations of your function. When he habitually dumps his emotional baggage on you, instead of absorbing it, you calmly say, "I'm exhausted right now. I need some quiet." When he expects you to have everything figured out, instead of taking charge, you tell him, "I need you to handle this one." Yes, you heard that right. Not to change him, not to educate him. And what do you think will happen? He will use every tool at his disposal, the silent treatment, emotional blackmail, playing the victim, to pull you back onto that familiar, functional track. An earthquake. He will be bewildered, angry. He might even accuse you of changing, of being selfish, of acting crazy. This is the moment of truth. This is your final test. All your past sacrifices will rise up like chains to drag you back, even if it's just for 30 minutes a day. Do something that has absolutely nothing to do with being functional and everything to do with your own soul's delight. And your job is to stand your ground, to weather the storm without flinching, without retreating. Dance wildly in your living room for no one's eyes but your own. Instead of going to the gym to build a body he would like, write down your cynical, misunderstood thoughts in a private journal instead of crafting a positive social media post. It was about reclaiming sovereignty over their own lives. They show us that a woman-as world can be infinitely more vast and profound than any single love affair. You are reactivating muscles that have atrophied. It will feel painful and awkward at first. You might even feel a crushing sense of guilt. But you must persist. Every single time you do something purely for yourself, you are making a declaration. My existence is its own purpose, not a tool for someone else. Because your anger, your selfishness, your inconsideration. But as Jung said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. You must walk into this dark forest to find your way home. These things you've been taught to see as flaws are the very beginning of you finding yourself. They are not the virus. They are your soul's immune system finally kicking in. Your anger is telling you a boundary has been crossed. Your exhaustion is telling you my energy is depleted. Your impatience is telling you my true needs are finally surfacing. After we break free from the cage of function, what does love even look like? What is the final truth, the ultimate epiphany that will turn your entire worldview upside down? You are transforming from an appliance that needs to be plugged into an external power source into a star that generates its own light. He will either leave because he can no longer use you, and if so, congratulations, you have peacefully surgically removed a parasitic relationship from your life. Or he will be drawn to this new independent light in you, and will have to learn to see and respect the real, whole person you are, allowing for a new, healthier connection to form. Embrace every unlovable part of yourself. They are the shadow of your personality that you've suppressed. The second step is to rebuild your own spiritual universe. Take the time and energy you've been pouring into him in this home, and like a sacred treasure, give it back to yourself. Read a difficult philosophy book instead of a parenting blog. This process is like physical therapy for your soul. The women in history who truly figured it out, from Virginia Woolf, insisting on a room of one's own, to Simone de Beauvoir, spending her life defining her own existence, their rebellion was never about fighting men. So the essence of rebellion isn't finding a better person to love, but becoming a more whole person. When you start living for yourself, a strange thing happens. You stop needing his love so desperately. Because you are learning to generate your own energy, your light is no longer for illuminating him. It's for illuminating yourself and your own path forward. At this point, one of two things will happen. Either way, you win, because you have taken back the steering wheel of your own life. But there is one final question left unanswered. After you have walked through the inferno of disappointment and rebuilt the kingdom of yourself, you might find yourself standing in a new landscape, feeling a little lost. If love isn't sacrifice, isn't function, isn't saving and being saved, then what on earth is it? Now, It's time to unveil the most profound and liberating truth of all. True love is not about finding the right person. It is the natural resonance that occurs when you become the right person for yourself. It is not a need to be met, but an overflow to be shared. In the past, you were an empty cup, desperately trying to be filled by someone else to prove your own worth. You called this desperate thirst for fulfillment love. That's why you were always searching, demanding, transacting. You traded your function for his attention, a transaction based entirely on scarcity. But when you, through rebellion and self-reflection, learn to fill your own cup, filling it with your own thoughts, your passions, your joys and sorrows, your creativity, you transform from an empty cup into a flowing spring. You become abundant, dynamic, and self-sustaining. You no longer need another tree to cling to you to prove that you exist. The love that happens now is the resonance between you and another, equally independent tree. You stand apart, yet you admire one another. Your roots may intertwine deep underground in a silent understanding, while your branches reach for the sky, free and unentangled, together creating an even more beautiful forest. You are not dependent on each other, but your existence makes each other's world richer. At this point, you no longer need love. The question itself is the trap. It hands the power to define you to someone else. You are like a thriving tree, deeply rooted in the earth, bathing in the sun, a complete ecosystem unto yourself. Because whoever comes into your life, you will have the strength to create a healthy relationship. And whoever leaves, you will not collapse. Your happiness is no longer held hostage by another person. You will have achieved what Nietzsche called a freedom of the spirit, an inner power that is unconditional and uncheckable. The gift it brings is not security, but freedom. This is the ultimate form of love, a free union of two whole souls. And that kingdom is your own rich inner world. Its prerequisite is not sacrifice, but radical self-actualization. Its goal is not fusion, but a deep respect for each other's boundaries. The pain, the struggle, the humiliation of being a function, none of it was in vain. It was the prelude to your awakening. Be the alive woman. Go be angry, be passionate, be creative. Make mistakes. Be the complex, authentic, contradictory, and brilliant human being you were always meant to be. It was the darkness you had to endure before breaking out of the chrysalis. Without that profound pain, you could never have reached this radical understanding. So here's the epiphany that changes everything. Stop looking outward for love. Start becoming love from within. Because here, we only talk about awakening. We only lead to freedom. Stop asking the question, does he love me? The only question you ever need to ask is, do I love me? Am I living my own life? When you can answer yes to that question without hesitation, you'll find that the right person becomes irrelevant. You will have finally evolved from the princess waiting to be rescued into the queen of your own kingdom. So please look back at the path you've walked. From this day forward, stop being the understanding woman. That is your most important mission in this life. That is the only love affair you ever truly need. If you are ready to begin this great journey back to yourself, to shatter these invisible chains, subscribe to our channel.